Hello, everybody. My name is Ian KirkpattieCake. I'm an author and robot, and today is the best day of the month. It is LMIAY time. That is where I give you guys a prompt. You send me your stories, and I share the incredible creativity with the audience here, and hopefully help readers find new writers, or just give a fun time to start working on a new story. So, before we get started, a couple of things. Number one, since it is LMIAY time, it means September's LMIAY is going to be available down in the description below. So check that out if you would like to be featured on this channel for next month's prompt. Number two, if you are a creative and you would like your stuff pitched on this channel, check out the link down below called Pitch Fit, where you send me your pitches and then I pitch them to the audience here, hopefully helping authors find readers and readers finding new content they would like to love. Because let's face it, there's a lot out there in the quagmire. So there's just a lot to search through to find new things. And the third thing is my upcoming novel, Believe More, Body More, Urban Fantasy Supernatural Thriller. It's coming out in October. So if you're interested, it's already available to add to your reading list on Goodreads, and you can pre-order it or just wait. The incredibly talented cover artist and I are working on the hardcover version of that, so it should be coming soon. And it's going to be a work of art because the cover is already so gorgeous. So check that out, also down in the description below. And with all of that said, let's go ahead and get started. You may have noticed the background, Florida. It's not Florida because I'm in Florida, but because this month's prompt was to take a Florida man headline and turn it into an original story, which I'm so looking forward to. Because everybody knows when Florida Man's involved, there's a story to tell. So whatever your guys' inspirations were, they came from Florida Man headlines. And with that said, let's get into it. The first submission is by Ken Wells. Collect, file, index. Blared through the speakers in Paul's home office. He had always loved listening to Grace for Drowning while documenting his achievements. Hitting another headline to his corkboard, his foot tapped to the rhythm. Catalog, preserve, came out of the speakers, and a smile stretched across his face. Had he outdone himself this time? He scanned the older clippings. Florida Man gets beat up by the Easter Bunny. Such a cherished moment of his life. He ran his fingers over the ink and smelled them. The smell sent him back to the moment he first read it. Ah, such bliss that one was. His first, the start of it all. Oh, but he could not stop there. Florida Man breaks into a home, sucks on sleeping man's toes. He became giddy as he reread the words over and over again. He read them. His mind drifted back to the day. The treachery of your smile. The words came through the speakers, and he laughed, snapping back to the present. It would be a good day for a walk, he had decided. Yes. But maybe one more song to get him into the mood. As the song track 1 pounded into dissonance, he felt that adrenaline kick, but he would have to be patient. The cacophony grew, and so did his excitement. Finally, it fell. Calm and peace fell over him like the acoustic guitar in the track. Just one more minute, and then he would have to stop his record player. He couldn't allow himself to be wrapped up in the Raider 2 until his task was done. Paul walked the busy hall of the hospital. No, not that one. They are not ready for us, he repeated, passing every door until... Nurse! John cried for his bed. Nurse, damn it, nurse! A wave of pleasure passed over Paul to the point of euphoria. Yes, yes, this was his calling. This is why he was led to this hospital. Ah! Screamed John as he thrashed in his bed, still unable to get a nurse to arrive. Paul looked at the charts by the door. 2 men were supposed to be in the room, but only one was there. I was sent to this room, Paul started. Fuck you, are you fucking nurse? No, get the fuck out! John screamed. Paul did everything he could to stifle the orgasmic euphoria sparking in his brain. He had already made it across the room to John. He was almost there, his senses heightened, and his heart pounded as he drew closer still. He reached out his arm. Get the fuck away from me. I want a fucking nurse! John continued to scream as he slapped John's hand away from him. That was all Paul needed. That one touch. That one moment to transfer the seed, to make the man do their bidding. Paul impatiently awaited the paper that morning. He paced up and down the driveway. Raider 2 blared on repeat for hours on end, and he did not sleep. What? What had he accomplished? What vile thing will that man have done now that he had bestowed a small fraction of his own gift upon him? His mouth frothed as he kept glancing out the window. The newspaper delivery man threw the paper from his truck onto the driveway. He laughed at the sight of Paul, once again scrambling to fetch the paper as soon as it landed. This was his joy every day. He gained just a little piece of happiness from seeing someone so excited that he was doing his job. They shared friendly, hurried waves as Paul made his way back into the house. Funny little man, the newspaper delivery man thought as he drove to the next house. Paul clacked the scissors as he scanned through the newspaper. It has to be here. It has to be here. What happened? What did he do? I must find it, he thought. Just wait. You'll see, replied a coarse, airy voice. Ugh, I can't find it. Paul screamed in frustration. His hands flailed in frustration, and he missed stabbing himself with the scissors by mere inches. Calmly, the voice replied, Look, page 10. It's there. It's there. I wouldn't let you down. You know that, right? I didn't see it. You must show me. I'm too excited. I can't read. I'm just too excited. A gray, misty shadow of a hand formed over the paper. Its fingers pointed to a single headline. Florida man sets hospital bed on fire to get nurses' attention. Paul smiled, clipped the article, and soft piano began playing on the speakers. Grace for Drowning. I love that album. And I love you, Abaddon. You have such good taste. Such good taste. And you're so much fun. I never want to live without you ever again, Paul said dreamily while holding the clipping into the air. Tears of joy streamed down his face. I feel like I don't remember how many times it is you've submitted it now. Ken, I remember the loin, because who could forget your loin entry? But I feel like you did a horror thing before. I might be mixing you up with somebody, and if I am, I'm sorry for that. But you've got great subtle horror vibes, creepy vibes going on, and I am all into this. The build, the execution, the voice, I love this a lot. The next entry is Charles Robertson. The story, it was the Caterpillar. With the Florida man headline, Police, Florida man wrecks liquor shop, blames Caterpillar. You'll regret that by morning, said the corner shop cashier as the customer placed a cardboard box of 10 lager cans onto the counter. The customer knew that only moments ago he was at work. Whatever job it was, he worked operating some form of machinery, but the sudden change of scenery he had found himself in was of no bother to him. Why? Am I buying the lesser taste of the available selections, more suited to a common peasant than a respectable nobleman such as myself? The customer chuckled to himself, looking down at his hands to count out 9 pounds in coins. No! Ejaculated a sharp voice from behind, causing the customer to drop his coins in surprise. The cashier was no longer behind the counter, somehow sneaking around without making a sound. He had also managed to bring a hookah made of gold and studded with diamonds, and a golden throne with bronze Arabic writing to sit upon. But what was truly strange was how he had developed a second pair of arms. The smaller arms on his chest were gesturing excessively, especially so when he spoke, whereas the larger arms that joined at the shoulder were attentive to only the hookah, which he smoked from, growing before vanishing out through where the roof should have been but was not, lost to the cosmos. It's because I don't want your blood to be spoiled, the cashier said, blowing out a pink unicorn that danced around the blue trees. For it is royal, and without it, we wouldn't need you anymore, which would be rather bad news for you. My blood is my own, so I'll spoil it all I damn well please, was the customer's response. The cashier stood suddenly, knocking his hookah aside, the throne sinking beneath the floor, his skin shed alike a snake's, and the smaller arms of his chest split and stretched to connect each side of his chest to each of his primary arms, creating wings to reveal a dragon-esque bat, covered in slime and blood as a newborn child would be. It flapped its wings in wrath, breaking apart the shelves of magazines, newspapers, snacks, and alcoholic drinks, before thwacking the royal customer aside to reach and fling away the lager. Turning back to the customer, he gestured with his winged hand a clear, "I'll be watching you," before once again shedding his skin as he shrank to a 2-inch caterpillar of black and white stripes and an orange head. The customer crawled over and picked up the caterpillar to squish it, for he knew it was evil, only to drop it when he was surprised by spikes emerging from the tiny beast as it mutated, a miniature hyena's mouth that cackled to mock his powerlessness over something so much smaller, somehow saying to his mind, "Go ahead, tell them. They won't believe you." Awakening in a forklift, the customer found himself to be a construction worker, having to stop suddenly not to impale another man. "What the hell's wrong with you?" the almost victim screeched as other workers rushed over to drag the driver, who put up no resistance, out of the vehicle. A battery of faces surrounded him, some scolding as if he were an unruly child, and they, his parents. A select few showed more sympathy than concern, and others were simply confused as to the very nature of the ordeal, seen as they had not seen what had happened before the driver was pulled out. Seated on the hard dirt ground, looking down at his hands, the now construction worker saw many stabbing marks all over his palms and, after the observation, lifted his shirt to reveal the markings of an oddly shaped limb having struck the side of his torso. "It was the caterpillar," he said within his mind first, then repeated aloud. Got some Alice in Wonderland vibes going on here, and I'm not just saying that because there was a caterpillar, and I can't think of anything else that uses a caterpillar. But also, well, a hookah caterpillar. But you got some, what is it, Bizarro vibes going in here. Get Irwin the author in here, because he was just talking about Bizarro. That's what I like about Bizarro, is it can be so surprising. It can also go so wrong when it goes wrong. Like, very, very wrong. Well, I didn't know where that was going. I actually felt like I was in a Florida Man mind right then. Very nice, Robert. The next submission is by Gordon Hammer. "Grover Dunbarry, Dade County Police, open up," Tom Wyatt shouted, giving the door a few sharp knocks. "He's not anything special, Wyatt. I can handle him just fine," a disgruntled mumble came from his left. "I've seen my share of shit." Tom knocked on the door a second time, harder now, before glancing over at Gonzalez. His partner was leaning with his back against the iron balustrade, arms crossed. They were on the 4th floor of a condominium, the outer stairwell just a few feet away. Good news was, that would be Grover's only means of egress if he tried to make a run for it, though despite his bravado, Tom was more concerned it'd be Gonzalez who ran. "Sure, just brace yourself, all right?" Gonzalez's expression was unreadable behind the shade, but Tom could see the sweat starting to run down his cheeks. That was either the heat or Grover's rap sheet. Tom gave him his best be-prepared look and started to knock again. When they heard the sound on the door being unlatched and unlocked, a moment later a scrawny blonde girl in her mid-20s opened the door and peered bleary-eyed out at them. Tom was immediately assaulted by the smell of pot, sweat, stale sex, and vomit, and something else, like rotten meat. "What you want?" the girl asked in a thick drawl. Her hair was a ratty mess, and she was missing several teeth. She wore a dirty-stained "Don't Tread on Me" t-shirt and nothing else. "Miami-Dade Police, ma'am. We have a—" "I heard you the first time. I'm asking what you want with my brother." Tom's lips thinned, and he lowered his head, summoning patience. "Ma'am, is Grover home?" She put a hand on her hip. "No, he—" A shout from further in the condo interrupted her. "Daisy! The fuck they want?" Suddenly, the door was pulled outward from Tom, his partner pushing past him and the girl shoving her to the side, stepping into the living room. "Grover Dunbarry, this is the police." "Hi!" Daisy cried, recovering. "I'm Officer Hector Gonzalez, and you know my partner, Officer Tom Wyatt," Gonzalez continued, stepping deftly over piles of unwashed clothes, dirty plates, and garbage. "We have a warrant for your arrest, sir." Tom sighed and stepped inside as Daisy hurried after Gonzalez. A pale face peeked out from the open bedroom door just before Hector reached it. Taken aback, the officer stopped in his tracks. The Grover Dunbarry he'd seen in the mugshots had looked bad, but this was something else. The face looking out at him had horribly sunken eyes, the cheekbones too sharp, the facial hair patchy and missing in spots. Some dull red crust lined his small chin and lips. His long black hair was slick, stringy, and oily, plastered against his neck and the sides of his face. There was a viscous green something stuck to the center of his forehead, like a wad of sickly phlegm. "Warrant for what?" Grover said. "Failure to Daisy popped up at Gonzalez's side and stepped between him and Grover. "You can't just come into my house, motherfucker." "What'd I do?" Grover asked again, leaning forward, seemingly to genuinely try to hear over the girls shouting. You get the hell out of here, fucking piggy shit kicker. I'ma mess you up, Daisy continued, shoving against Gonzalez's chest to no effect. I'ma learn you something, motherfucker. Daisy! Grover yelled, pulling her away by the arm and into the bedroom behind him. Shut up, goddammit. Give it a rest. The blonde, nonplussed, glared between her brother and the officer, pulling at the arms of her shirt nervously. As she did so, Hector spotted a wound on her shoulder blade, just below her neck. You missed your court date, Grover, Tom shouted. He'd made it as far as the kitchen that adjoined the living room. Now he stood next to the fridge, staring down into the sink. The only light in the apartment came from the early morning rays, trying to fight their way through the large plastic blinds in the living room. But that was enough to see what was in the sink. He sighed again and pulled out a pair of plastic gloves from his pocket. Oh, Grover said slowly. Yeah, all right, I guess I did. Was this over the whole baiting in public thing? No, Hector replied, still studying the half-moon-shaped wound and dried blood caked on Daisy's shoulder. This is over the whole punching a rideshare driver in the back of the head thing. Ma'am, what's wrong with your shoulder? Daisy quickly tried to cover her skin. It's nothing. That's just a love bite, Grover said. Hector looked back at Grover and his red-crusted lips and chin, dumbfounded. It's consensual, Daisy added. It's what? Consensual, she spat back. Ain't you never heard of blood play in Mexico, piggy? This piggy's Cuban, ma'am. He pointed at Daisy and asked Grover, That's your sister? Grover frowned. You ain't catching us doing shit. You ain't seen me fucking her, so I didn't. And I ain't pregnant, neither, Daisy added. Her eyes shot to something over Gonzalez's shoulder. She held up her hand to her mouth and laughed. He turned around to see Tom, standing behind them, holding a dead raccoon by the tail in one gloved hand. Grover? Grover? Tom asked. Grover started to laugh as well. What you holding that for, Office Wyatt? Why do you have a dead raccoon in your sink, Grover? What I do in my house is my business. Not when it comes to this, it's not, Grover. I didn't abuse no animal. He was already dead when we picked it up, Daisy added. Tom stared back at them, visibly tired. I'm not blind, Grover, he said. Did you fuck this dead raccoon? Gonzalez, to his credit, did not run. He did, however, vomit on Grover Dunbarry's bedroom carpet. Well, I didn't know where that was going to go. When I ask you guys to bring the Florida Man, you guys bring the freaking Florida Man. Oh my gosh. The dialogue in this and the characterization in this was absolutely beautiful, Gordon. And clearly, you were, in a past life, the writers for the Jerry Springer Show and or a contestant on the Jerry Springer Show. That was a good build-up. That was a great build-up, really. Very surprising. But just freaking A. My gosh. The next one, moving on. How much more dysfunctional and disturbing can we get here, Florida Man? The next story is by Taylor Ridley, with the headline, Man Caught on Camera Stealing Peacock. Gotcha, I growled, trying not to spit out my sweat-soaked cigarette as I hoisted the squirming peacock under my right arm. I don't know why I even bothered. It's not like this thing was lit. It's not like the thing was lit. It's more about the image, though, you know? People always said cigs made you look mean. Kwa kwa! Its ear-splitting scream rang in my head while it defiantly pushed its talons into my arm and side, almost certainly drawing some blood. Huh. I can always tell the gals that I got the scars from brawling a pack of dogs. They always eat those stories up like candy. The bird reeled back to scream again, but this time I clamped my hand around its beak and shoved its head away from my face. Shut up, you overgrown parrot. Just 'cause them Hindu highway campers'll pay to hear you squawk, don't mean that I want to. They say you like wise guardsmen or some horse crap, but you about to be as stupid as a pigeon. I turned around and started jogging back out of the alley, toward the truck. But at the opening of the street, a flock of brown peahens gathered up to block the way. About 20 puffed-up balls of feathers were facing me and cooing. They're growling? Can birds growl? I ain't never heard a bird growl before. I stepped up to them, but they wouldn't move. I swung my foot to kick the one in front of me out of the way, but as soon as she fell back with a pained squeak, the others swarmed up to take her place, now circling to my right and left. Kawa! 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 They all started screeching and beating their wings. One jumped forward and jabbed my shin with her little razor-tipped beak. Ow! Why, you little... I yelled and tried to stomp her head into the road. I don't know if I got her, 'cause the next thing I saw was a cloud of peacock feathers exploding into the air, beating me from all sides. Talons went into my shoulder and more in my arm. I couldn't see. I ran for it, but my foot caught on the curb, and I felt my face hit the asphalt. In a daze, I tried to roll over to look for the car, but they had already pinned me down as if they weighed 100 pounds each, and the only thing that I could see in the swarm was fire burning in their beady little eyes. Then it hit me. These things were gonna eat me. Well, this Florida man has met his maker with a flock of birds. The only thing crazier than Florida man is Florida birds. Because some of them are about as big as a freaking Florida man. Florida birds are pretty crazy, though. The next story is by Ryan. Oh no, you ate something doofus. James coughed up gray smoke from laughing and trying to take a drag from his home rolled at the same time. Just trying to have fun. Trust me. He had it coming. Your cockney's getting a little thick. Must be something serious. His smile was that of a Cheshire cat's. Explain yourself, I said with too much edge in my voice. James didn't care. He went out of his way to antagonize me. Did you know your nostrils flare when you're impatient? So much your tiny little septum ring pushes straight out. James, another laugh. Come on, babe. I'm watching a show. Stop calling me bird. You know how much I hate that. With a smirk, he said, It's been years. Get over it. James pinched his cigarette as he cracked his scarred knuckles. This was going to be a good one. The white dude that looked like he hadn't had a shower and dressed like he picked his clothes out of a dumpster was doing an Irish jig while 20 or so police looked on. One had a bullhorn instructing the man to stop dancing and get off the car. From what I could make out, sitting on the other side of the street with my supersonic vampire hearing was, I can't! The vampire will get me! I side-eyed James. He took a long drag and said, All right, I'll tell you. Puffs of gray smoke pushed between his lips with each word as he spoke. That guy over there? He pointed with his smoke between two fingers. I caught him in the alley a couple blocks over. He had a woman up against a wall trying to assault her. He looked over at me, my wings raised up from their resting position and stretched. One behind him and the other 10 feet in the other direction. Now calm down, bird. Listen to the rest of the story, right? He had an end pinned above a head, and he was saying real nasty stuff. Far worse than anything you've ever spilled out your mouth. He elbowed me like I was in a mood to laugh. Funny, but why is the prick alive? Well, I see it like this. I wanted to have some fun and scare shit out of him at the same time. For the record, I did scare shit out of him. And piss too. In his pants. It was true, the rapist had brown stains running down his leg, but he wouldn't stop dancing. James continued. I fisted my end round his neck, squeezed his throat an inch before fracturing his eye bone until he released the young lady. She took off running after I made sure she was okay. Or I told her, or the police. Once she made it to the street, I told them I'd give him a head start to get away from me. All he had to do was run to the nearest police car, dance on the roof of it. And if he could do that, I'd let him live. I rubbed my temples and asked, how did you know there would be cops over there? I called him, of course. But why did you tell him that? Why didn't you just eliminate him? With fake exasperation, he said, I'm not Batman. Vigilante justice ain't my thing. Besides, this is way more fun to watch. Okay, so Batman didn't kill, he detained. So, in a way, you are Batman. You made that guy run into his own detention. I don't want to be Batman. Which character killed then? The Joker. You're not out of your mind enough for him. Ignoring the answer, James looked over his shoulder and said, About time you put those away, don't you think? My wings. I forgot they were out. It's more comfortable for me to have them out than dematerialized. With a mental command, I ghosted them away. Better, Highness? He rolled his eyes and shrugged his shoulders and said, "Makes no difference to me, bud." That wasn't the truth. He was obsessively protective of my wings, but I'd let it slide. He was having way too much fun watching his self-made entertainment. The finale of the show had begun. Two uniformed cops crawled onto the cruiser. The dancing guy struggled to get away, but was eventually cuffed. The lead officer slipped down the windshield, cracking the hell out of it, pulling a handcuffed guy with him. The second officer was left standing on a dented roof, hands on his hips and shaking his head. After that, it was standard procedure with the EMT checking him over, then shoving the guy into the back of another patrol car. "Are you satisfied with yourself?" I asked James. Quite so. I'm in the mood for a pint. You buying?" James lifted up a blue and orange Velcro wallet with a UF logo. I wasn't a Gator fan, but the logo looked more like FU, so that was cool. With the rip of the hook and loop, he pulled it open and produced a wad of cash. Holding the ID card, he said, "Looks like Chuck Green is buying around tonight." Terrific. That night at a pub, thousands of miles away from James' fun, the national news playing the television reported Florida man dances on police car to escape vampire. Someone grumbled, "Only in Florida." My best friend leaned over. "You know, Misery, I did all this just to get you to laugh. Seems like I failed." I tried to bite the inside of my cheek, but my eyes still managed to crinkle the corners. "Ah," he said as he slammed his hand onto a sticky wooden table. "Got you to smile. Good enough for me, bud. I'll do anything to get you to smile." Yeah, I know. I remember Mexico and the water incident. A vampire threatening a criminal to act ridiculous in order to save his life. I like that. I like that a lot. These two have some great chemistry together, too. I'm very interested in knowing more about these two, their background, what kind of stuff they do together. I feel like this is part of a bigger story or part of a bigger universe. Okay, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I know that this is part of a bigger universe and a bigger story. So I'm really interested in knowing these characters more. I can't help but love the cocky vampires so much. My gosh, you don't even know. Okay, so the last submission this month is from Matt Dawson. It does say headline at the end, tried to guess it. So let me know if you guess it in the comments below. Ned tucked himself into the standing freezer, anxiety washing over him like a tsunami as he held the door ajar. Looming just a few paces away, an evil wizard prowled. It wasn't the first time he'd encountered the wizard and his miserly beard with a patchy, fading, rigid, squared haircut. But it seemed Ned was trapped. Luckily, moments before, he was struck by a spark of inspiration and called 911 as fast as his fingers could move. Luckily, moments before, he was struck by a spark of inspiration and called 911 as fast as his fingers could move and whispering with a hushed determination. He intended to stay in there and wait it out, but enduring chilling temperatures in a short-sleeved polo and khakis wasn't going to last. And he was getting ravenous. It's been 15 minutes since last collecting his fry tax, and his tummy rumbled with empty despair. Despite the wizard's capacity for venomous words and his woeful, sharp intellect, he was no match for the sheriff. The question was, could Ned acquire his tasty tater tithe without alerting the prowling menace that paced the kitchen? He bounded from the standing freezer to the fry station like a hunter chasing a deer, eager to answer the question. As Ned wiggled his fingers and raised his arms over the counter, the wizard halted. A single eye peeked over. Ned spotted the great evil turning toward him, and panic retreated his reach, weighed his head in tandem. The lazy tapping of hard soles upon the tile and the painstaking saunter of the overweight wizard gave enough of a signal to Ned to reattempt. The mouth-watering scent of fried potatoes, salted to perfection, was a siren call. It caressed his senses and drew him toward that much-needed sustenance. Just as he gripped the paper holder filled with fries, the wizard turned, and Ned hit the deck, bearing reward in hand. With a voracious chomp, Ned bit down on a handful of his delectable reward. Without condiments and a few hours under a lamp the lamp was the best way to enjoy them. He relaxed his posture and let out a satisfied moan before catching himself making noise and tightening his shoulders with discipline. Then the two glass doors at the front of the building swept open, and the sheriff with two deputies marched in. The wizard smiled and greeted them. We have reports of a robbery in progress. The sheriff had a hand on his sidearm. The wizard straightened and cleared his throat. No, sir. No robbery had occurred here. He shifted toward the kitchen. Katie, did someone get robbed? Katie stepped out from behind the microwave oven and burger dressing station. Nah, sir, ain't no robbery here. Just Ned calling the police 'cause he don't want to work. The wizard furrowed his brow and leaned over the counter to find Ned chomping down a large fry. Ned, did you call the cops? With a sharp panic, Ned's eyes widened. He always knew Katie was in cahoots with the devilish sorcerer. He jumped to his feet. You ain't getting me, wizard! Damn it, Ned. For the last time, I'm not an evil wizard. I'm your manager. The sheriff turned to Ned. Sir, did you call 911? Yep, I did. Ned's mouth, still filled with fries, received yet another fistful of golden glory. Was there any crime that you witnessed? The sheriff crossed his arms. No, sir. Ned stuffed his face. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to put down the fries and place your hands behind your back. You have the right to remain silent. The sheriff produced a set of handcuffs. Ned is still not out on bail and was fired. There were some great phrases in here, fistfuls of golden glory. I specifically loved the tasty tater tithe. Your alliteration in this also reminded me it reminded me of The Oven Man, which was about a stoner pizza guy. Though obviously this is much more ridiculous than The Oven Man by Jeff Parker. But this also makes me think of that's that movie that was a role-playing movie about badassery. Like the Kingdom of Badassery or whatever it was. This is what that makes me think of, but Florida Man edition. And in case in case you guys were playing the guessing game, what was the headline? It was Florida Man calls 911 to get out of his fast food shift. Cops say. And it worked. Sort of. You guys are so good. Oh my gosh. I have never read one of these that I didn't thoroughly enjoy. So I hope you guys have as much fun writing them as I do reading them, messing around, playing with them. And thank you so much for submitting them and giving me this opportunity to read your stuff, share your stuff, and send people to you for your guys' creative abilities, because so much talent always on display here at LMIAY. So thank you everybody for watching. Let me know what your favorite story this month was. Was it one of the bird? There were 2 bird ones. Yeah, birds are kind of a thing here. yeah, birds are kind of a thing in Florida. If you enjoy the kind of stuff I do on this channel, please remember to like it, share, subscribe for more. Your guys' support keeps me producing things. And until next time, thank you so much for watching. Have a great week. Have a great Monday, and don't die.
The only people who should come are those who want to meet their monsters.
If this is what Agatha wants, I don't know how we can even dispute it.
I change lives, baby.
And I and them. Sweetheart, no bargains hold. Only fools know restraint.
Only losers lose!
I've been under the knife so many times, I'm practically immune to it.
If your scissors are dull, may I recommend sharpening them with leather?
I think I hit you.
Mima says I must have a guardian angel.
To enter the ring but abstain from playing is suicidal. Your virtue makes you nothing but a liability.
You're gonna die. You're gonna die. You're gonna die.